Oh, probably not. Where the heck are those other two?
What do we need?
Because Mark's always welcome.
Rude.
Who's that?
That's Mark again.
Mark again?
He was having some technical difficulty, so we'll let him come back in. Block him? All right, we have enough for quorum. I know Councillor Schmidt-Rempel is here upstairs, so we will get started, knowing she will be joining us in a moment. So we will start with a call to order and roll call, Mr. Sarsfield. Just start with the three of us, and then that'll give her time to get here.
So this is the first roll call. Councillor Croson.
Present.
Councillor Carlson. Here. He said he was present. Councillor Middleton Hope.
Present.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Here. Perfect timing.
And also in attendance is Councillor Campbell.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Sarsfield. With the acknowledgement statement, the City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The City of Lethbridge offers respect to the Métis and all who have lived on this land and made Lethbridge their home. We'll go now to the adoption of the agenda. I have a motion from Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. Be it resolved that the April 24th, 2025 agenda of the Governance Standing Policy Committee meeting be adopted.
City Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are none.
With that, I will call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? And that is adopted unanimously. Moving now on to the consent agenda, we have the minutes and the status of directed. And I have a motion from Councillor Middleton Hope. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee approve the minutes of the Governance Standing Policy Committee meeting held on March 27, 2025, and authorize the Chair and City Clerk designate to sign the same. And 2, receive for information the status of directed resolutions for April 24, 2025. Councillor Middleton Hope.
Deputy City Clerk, are there any amendments or corrections to the minutes from the previous meeting?
There are none. We use the word directs correctly.
Okay, you had to have been
Thank
out
you.
at the meeting yesterday to get that inside joke.
You did. Thank you very much. Then if there are no additional corrections, Madam Chair, let's call, hold on.
Oh, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel?
There was a typo on page 3 of 6.
Was that direct versus directs?
No, it was resolved as opposed to resolved. Oh, resolved, okay, thank you. So there, thank you.
All right, minor correction to the minutes. All right, back
Great.
to you, Councillor Middleton Hope.
Yeah, then we'll call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? And that passes unanimously as well. Moving now to presentations. We have a presentation by Troy Granger, Executive Director, Community Futures, Lethbridge Region, on Community Futures informational presentation. Mr. Granger, if you'd like to come up. We're welcoming you here because it's been several years since we've had anyone from Community Futures. In fact, it's been several years since we've had a member of council on Community Futures. We've had a member of the community for quite a while, so we're looking.
There we go.
Perfect. Can everybody hear me all right? Okay. There we go. Not used to being mic'd. Is it possible to get the presentation up? Oh, excellent. Thank you very much. So good afternoon. My name is Troy Granger, and I'm the Executive Director with Community Futures, Lethbridge Region. I'm here today to give you some insight into our organization, what we do, why it's important to you as a council. Please feel free to jump in at any time with any questions or comments. For those of you who are unaware of who we are, Community Futures has been around since 1989 with 260 offices across Canada, including 27 in Alberta. We are a nonprofit overseen by a board of directors, which are comprised primarily of municipal shareholder reps and 2 members at large. And we welcome Councillor Crowson as one of our board members as well. We support small business through loans and advisory services, as well as to work to strengthen the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Our client base are typically businesses that have been declined by a traditional bank. CFs operate in rural areas only and support rural business growth, so you won't find a CF in Edmonton, Calgary, or Vancouver. Our region specifically stretches north to Barrens, just east past Coaldale, south to the Blood Reserve, and west just past Colehurst. And you can see here we have our vision, mission, differentiation, and core values. Essentially, our strategic tree dictates that we be a respected leader for economic development by financially assisting businesses to help communities sustain and grow. And we do this by operating under 3 key pillars or themes. Access to capital, which encompasses financing programs in which loans are provided to eligible small business. Knowledge transfer, which contains our business training and advisory services and can include business plans, marketing plans, cash flows, etc. And lastly, our collaboration, which is our entrepreneurial ecosystem efforts for building an environment for the success that I mentioned earlier. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road and some of the impact that we and our small business clients bring to the regional economy. So in 23-24, we loaned almost $1.25 million in financing products and trained over 550 entrepreneurs. We also leveraged dollars through client equity in the deals, which added an additional $300,000 into the economy. We also leveraged dollars through projects where we contribute some capital, then multiply that through partner and participant contributions. You can see here that we turned a $57,000 investment into over 170, which is essentially turning every dollar into 3. An important point is that the majority of these dollars I am referencing are being spent in the region and supporting other small businesses. One of the loan products that we offered is the Business Improvement Loan, or BIL, where participating municipalities contribute the interest portion of a loan for small businesses to beautify or secure their interior or exterior of their storefront. In the last 9 years, we've supported 160 businesses with just over $1.8 million, maintaining over 350 jobs. You can see here that the City of Lethbridge, logically by population, encompasses the lion's share of the amount supported at 74%, or approximately $1.38 million in small business support through the BIL program. You can see an example here, a breakdown of a $20,000 loan where the city pays the $2,500 in interest. The client pays principal only for the $20,000 in physical improvements. And this program can also leverage the city's crime prevention through environmental design program. Another specialty program that we administered was the Regional Relief and Recovery Fund, or RRF, which was a small business pandemic assistance program. We approved 122 loans worth almost $4 million and had a 76% repayment rate, which was pretty astounding, with the rest being termed out over 2 years, as per the federal mandate of the program wind down. Now, of note is the forgivable portion. So portions of those loans were forgivable, and that amounted to just under $1 million, which was reinvested back into the region. So that's quite a note. So if you take that and you multiply that by the 260 offices across Canada, that number grows quite exponentially. And with respect to collaboration pillar, we're involved in several projects simultaneously throughout the year. One of them is the Blackfoot Signage Project, which sees an 80% grant and partner funded subsidy for public-facing signage in Blackfoot throughout southern Alberta. Another is a Launch Point Pitch Competition, which is a project whose intent is to bring business ideas out of the shadows as aspiring entrepreneurs pitch their ideas for cash, prizes, and supports. Kids in the Biz is also, I think it's in its third year now, coming up on its third year, is a project that allows youth entrepreneurs, 9 to 16-year-olds, exposure to a full trade show setup to showcase their products and services and their businesses to the general public. And here are just a few of the sessions and events that we were a part of that happened recently or will be coming up shortly. So we were on the committee for the Southern Alberta Economic Summit, which was held in March. We recently facilitated an artificial intelligence for business, which will be morphing into a series with a beginner, intermediate, and expert level. And also we had a how to sell a business. So this is part of our newly launched Exit Navigator program or project, which focuses on business transition in Alberta. When you look outside at your business community, 76% are looking at selling in the next 10 years, with the majority of that due to retirement. So we're working with experts in the field who assist with the plan development for selling a business and keeping that entity operational in the community, which adds to the economic impact. Also, we partnered with a group called Class Rebel out of New York, and they design and facilitate education series on angel investing and fundraising for startups, so being able to gather capital. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is that we are client-focused. So here are the few of the client testimonials. You might recognize some of the businesses right in your own downtown core. And all of the things that I've described and all of the things that we do with a full-time equivalent of only 2.8. So we think that's pretty astounding. So as counselors, you're likely to be approached by businesses. If their questions or concerns are operational in nature, we'd encourage you to ask them to contact us. And depending on the circumstance is where we can help or we can find someone who can. Counselors and committee members, thank you for your time and attention, and now I'll open the floor to any questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Granger. Yes, as this is a standing policy committee, the first thing we will do is see if there's any questions from the community. But since everyone sitting in the audience is staff, I don't think there are any questions from anyone in the audience, unless Nick just for once wants to ask a question. No? All right. So we will open it up to members of the committee, and we will start. Sorry, I had to just double check where Councillor Carlson had moved to. We'll start with Councillor Carlson.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I've never sat over here before. I thought I'd take the opportunity. Then I can peek over David's shoulder.
You are moving to the right, is what you're saying?
Yes. So are the. Sorry, John. I'll be 2 chairs over shortly. Thank you for the presentation. It's been a long time. In fact, it's I don't think since I've been on council that we've had this presentation, and I'm glad that my colleague put her name forward, because it's nice to have the connection. Because we hear about community futures all the time, but we've never really had sort of an overview at council or even at committee. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I had a couple of questions about the business improvement loan. Is that?
Yes, correct.
Now, I believe in the documentation you talked about 1.8 million has been invested. Is that since 2015 or is that an annual?
No, that's since 2015.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's historic, 9 years, yes.
Okay, thank you. And how, maybe through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Matthews or whoever might understand this, how is the relationship managed? Because when I first, between the city and the entity that is having to repay the loan, because I see the city pays the interest. And so when I saw that it was 1.8, I was concerned that was annual because I wasn't sure how you budget for something like that. So Mr. Matthews, how do we manage that process? Is there a formal agreement or is it just been a practice? And how do we budget for that? Because it could change year by year.
Okay, so I'm a little caught off guard on this one.
Oh,
so.
sorry.
But it sounds like we have by the head nod here, we have a formal agreement in place, and I'm not quite sure where this is managed internally. It's not with our group on it here, so I'm not sure if there's any of my peers in council chambers today. Nope, they're
When it started, it came to heart of our city, because it was mostly about the downtown. So I wonder if it's not a legacy in that department, and that would just be a guess, because Heart of Our City was involved in making that arrangement with Community Futures back in 2015. If Mr. Matthews is going to do some research, that might be where I would start looking.
Thank you, because I'd just be keen to know how it is work, because I was on Heart of the City back in the day, same time you were, but I left before this program came in, so I.
Yeah, if I can speak to
Thank
that. Yes, Heart of the City and the BRZ are partners in the program as well. So the process is that the business would approach the BRZ, because the BIL program is specifically for the downtown core. They would approach the BRZ, and then the BRZ would forward that application to us with an approval, and then we would go through our due diligence for that loan process. Then we would request, if there's an approval, we would request the interest portion from the city, which gets paid upfront as a whole, and then the loan product is established, and then the client pays the principal-only portion over the term of 3 years.
And thank you for that. That jumps another question to my mind, if I can, Madam Chair. It's only in the downtown core, only businesses overseen, for better lack of a better term,
Correct,
by the
yes,
BRZ.
by the BRZ, yes, yes.
Is that standard in other communities, or is that just because we did the deal through BRZ and Heart of the City, that's how it happened?
Yes, and I think it also has to do with budgetary constraints as well. Given that in the last, I've been with the organization about 3 years, and we've either maxed out or been very close to the budget amount every year. So it is quite popular, and it is fully subscribed on an annual basis.
Yeah, and what is that annual budget amount, if you?
That
if you
would
have
be, I'm not sure exactly, but I believe it's in and around the 20,000 mark.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
I will be honest, that was one of the things I was hoping we'd look into, because you can go up to 20,000 loan with the BIL in Lethbridge, but I think 25,000 in Coaldale?
Yes.
Yeah, so just mentioning that Coaldale has a better business improvement loan program than Lethbridge does, if that sits with my colleagues, okay? We must crush them. All right. Any other questions from any members of committee? All right. I have a couple. So how do customers find Community Futures?
We have an extensive marketing program, as well as an online presence. Also, we have referral systems set up with traditional banks. So when they are declined by a traditional bank, they have us as an alternative for referral. So it's not just a decline and out the door they go. So we try to build a robust referral system. We work with our partners as well in the ecosystem. Right now, we're just about to enter into an MOU with the Regional Innovation Network to share expert resources and clients so that the doors that they have to open to get the resources they need are minimized. So instead of going to us and then to RINSA and then to federal government or whatever resource they go to, we're trying to trim that down into a one-stop shop.
And are there, because we haven't had a conversation between Community Futures and Council for a long time, are there any concerns that Community Futures is facing that Lethbridge, the corporation of the City of Lethbridge, or Lethbridge City Council could help with? Is there any, I know there's no asks in the request, but in your perfect blue sky world, is there anything you'd like to see in a better relationship?
No, actually, it was nice. Our corporate structure is made up of 10 shares, all owned by individual municipalities in the region. And the fact that we have a councillor now, Curtis Goodman sat with our board, and he was our chair for well over 10 years. And he was an excellent representative for the city. But when we do have term limits, and when that term limit came up, I did reach out, and the response from the city was very positive and very engaging. And so I'd like to thank you for that as well.
Councillor Middleton Hope, floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, thank you for the enlightening presentation. Provides me with some insights into an organization that I was not particularly familiar with. You talked about supporting small businesses through loans, primarily acquired through grants that are provided by various levels of government. Do I
Historically, so the federal government provided some seed capital for all CFs in
Yep.
Canada. So we've grown those pots of money over the years through loan interest. So it basically sits in that fund and it grows and it grows and it grows and allows us to lend out more and more and more. And it's just kind of self-perpetuating in that respect. And that's how we grow our loan fund.
So then a two-pronged question. What is your strategy to avoid defaults, and what is your rate of default?
Our rate of default is fairly, to answer your second question first, our rate of default is fairly conservative. We sit in the 1 to 3% range. Historically, some years we're higher, some years we're lower, but it just depends on economic impacts and so on and so forth. This year, our year end was just in March, and we'd be looking at a slight increase. But if you do some comparables, we lent out over close to 1.5 million, and our write-off was less than 100,000. So, and that's a number of loans. That's not just one facility.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you do have defaults on some
yes,
of the
we do.
loans that you provide. Do you have repeat defaults?
Not typically, because normally, if they're in default, our policies dictate that they cannot seek further credit from us.
Okay.
And we operate like a traditional bank in the respect that we do our due diligence. So to answer your first question, so we go through the 5 C's of credit, and we do our due diligence that way. We are a secured lender because we are considered higher risk. So we look at security position as well. But one thing that we look at that traditional financiers don't look at is community impact, the amount of jobs that would be lost or created if we did or did not do the loan, that type of thing. So there are other aspects that we roll into a loan application.
Sorry, could you just touch on the interest for a moment? You said that the municipalities pay the interest on these loans?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm listening to him.
Yes. So the municipalities pay the interest up front, and then that's, so we use that interest or whatever is gone into the fund so we can lend out more, essentially.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
But to
Thank you, Madam
clarify,
Chair.
it's only the one type of loan that we pay the interest on, just the business improvement loan, not all the
That's
loans.
correct, yes. And those are for Lethbridge businesses located in the downtown core.
Great. So very specific loan do we pay the interest on. Are there any other questions from any other members of committee? Sorry, only in the downtown core? Only business improvement loans in the downtown core does the city pay the interest. On all other loans, it's up to the person getting the loan.
Wonder what that is.
They came to us in 2014 to Heart of Our City in the BRZ, and the decision was made to cover it in order to support loans that would help basically with the Main Street program at that time.
I'm just interested in terms of why would it only be for the downtown core?
Because it was Heart of Our City and BRZ that put the money in at that time, and it's just never changed. One of the reasons I wanted Mr. Granger to bring it forward is because I didn't think most people around this council knew that we were still doing that program.
So there's an opportunity now to expand it.
And as I said, we're doing 20,000 loans, Coaldale's doing 25, and it's only downtown. Future discussion for this committee and/or council.
Good, thank you.
Sometimes I have reasons for doing things. Councillor Carlson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That prompts another question by me. Because I too was surprised with that it was just to the downtown core, but I thought what I heard was it's fully subscribed every year. So even if council said, open the floodgates, everyone's in, there's no more money.
It would depend on the appetite of council. So we can fund as long as there's interest portions available.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing the queue empty, we will move to the motion. Thank you very much, Mr. Granger, for the presentation. It is Councillor Carlson, yes. And the motion reads, be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee receive the Community Futures Lethbridge Region shareholder presentation for information. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and once again, I appreciate you taking the time to bring us up to speed, and we can chat about things with our colleagues if there's any changes we ever want to discuss with you.
Thank you for your interest and an invitation. And yes, our doors are always open. So if there's any questions or information you require, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Unless
you,
there's
Lynn.
any further comment from my colleagues, I'll call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? And I am going to rudely put us into a 5-minute recess.
Why?
Because my laptop is dying and my charger's upstairs. I will be right back. Upstairs and get that and apologize. I should have grabbed it at lunch. But we will now continue on with the agenda. And we're going into submissions. And it is on the New Transit Citizen and Customer Administrative Committee. The request they ask here is to not do it as a council committee, to rescind a portion of our November 2023 resolution, and to then have administration directed to create it as an admin committee with all the relevant information and reporting back through assets and infrastructure. So we will see if there are any questions of committee on this. You answered my question. All right. That was easy enough when I just read the motion. So let me read the motion officially and then we'll know where we're going. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommend that Council, 1, rescind a portion of their November 28, 2023 resolution of City Council. 1, direct administration to draft a bylaw to move forward with creating a Transit Citizen and Customer Advisory Committee for review at a Governance Standing Policy Committee by Q4 2024. And 2, direct administration to provide a report on input on transit operations, including relevant feedback and recommendations to a future meeting of the Assets and Infrastructure Standing Policy Committee. The only thing not in the motion, there is no time limit for when they have to come back, but there is a report back involved on the committee. I see that Councillor Carlson has a question.
And thank you, Madam Chair. And the question I had was basically on that second part about providing a report on input. I'm just wondering, is it, because there was no background documentation or even a straw man TOR for it. And so I'm just wondering how often will it meet, how many folks will be on it, how will they be selected, and how will that input get to council?
Magically, Mr. Jewell is here to answer all
I
those
saw
questions.
Darwin leap out of his chair.
Mr. Jewell, if you could provide us some information on what you're thinking that committee would look like at an administrative level.
In fact, I even asked, should I submit the terms of the draft terms of reference? And I said no, but I'll describe them. And just to give you a bit of history here, there has been a Transit Citizen Advisory Committee from 2016 to 2022 when they stopped it. And then with the transit audit, we were directed to reestablish a new committee of council, and this here is merely just say a administrative committee versus committee of council. I took the old terms of reference from the old committee and amended it, and we wanted to have more membership. It was only 6 or 8 groups in that. I think I have it up to 14 to 15 individual groups. And this is the flexibility of having an administrative committee. We have more flexibility with more groups, more input. And it says in here we wanted to focus on 2 topic areas. We might have 2 streams of meetings, one for fixed route with groups that are interested in fixed route. If they don't care about paratransit services, they don't have to attend that one. And then we'll have another group that is for Access-a-Ride and paratransit services. So the listing of individual groups, it's all of the groups that I regularly have meetings with anyway. So if it's fixed route, the university, the college, the high schools, and then anyone else that is interested in fixed route service as a group, even the special needs groups. And then we had, for the Access-a-Ride or the paratransit one, we had special needs groups and people that are regularly using Access-a-Ride services. So it has a broad membership in the draft terms of reference.
Okay, and thank you for that. And Mr. Jewell, you said 14 to 15 groups. Are there any individual representatives, like members at large being, I love transit, but I don't think I'm part of any group that would be.
I believe we wanted to have 2 individuals that are, and I'm not sure how well we'll select them. I think we said 2 individuals that would be interested by application, and then that would be 2 individuals that are interested in paratransit and 2 individuals that are interested in fixed route services, as well as the large groups. So we don't want several thousand. The university is huge, but there's university, college, health services, and then right down to, we said 2 individuals that would be representing their own interests.
Thank you. And sorry, maybe I missed it while I was taking notes. How often is it being envisioned that the information will come back to committee? Which committee is it? Assets and Infrastructure.
Yeah. I spoke with Joel Sanchez about this. We were planning on meeting quarterly with the TCCAC, and we thought every 6 months to a year, because every 2 meetings we may not have enough information to report back, but we can do as much as we need. But I thought 6 months to a year, depending on the content of the first couple of meetings. We might do every 6 months, and then we get into a pattern. It might be annually thereafter. But it's more whatever the groups are asking for, as well as the Assets and Infrastructure Subcommittee. You know, if they want more, they want less. We'll
Okay,
play that by ear.
Thank you for that, Madam Chair. If I can, just for maybe the benefit of our colleagues, if we forward this to council, perhaps we could request the TOR be attached, the terms of reference, or the
Would
draft.
that be any difficulty, Mr. Sarsfield?
It wouldn't be any difficulty, but it wouldn't necessarily be what is adopted. So the purpose is, as soon as it becomes the administrative committee, the committee structure may change depending on what the request is and what they're asking for information on. So today it may consist of a certain segment or a certain area of people, and next month or next year might be a different. So it would just be, give you a point in time of what it could be, but it could change, and it wouldn't necessarily be exactly that.
Not to read into it, but the idea is simply to be able to show our colleagues how the needs of the community are being met through the terms of reference, more than the fact that this is the long-standing terms of reference. I think that, just so we can take that to them, would be something we'd appreciate.
And further to that, I wonder, with these, we've moved several, pardon me, of our committees to administrative. And I don't think that they constantly need to be reporting back to council, especially if there's nothing happening. But just an awareness that these, I think councillors going forward need to be aware, even if it's a quick submission, meeting was held, these were the topics discussed. Just so that council is aware, because we get questions from members of the community all the time, and it'd be great for me to say, oh, actually, there's an upcoming meeting, or we just had a meeting, or so just an awareness thing, because we've transferred a lot or transitioned a lot of our committees to administrative, but I think it's incumbent on council to be aware that they're actually doing what council hoped, if that makes sense. And I don't know how you embed that.
Yeah, I think what Councillor Carlson's saying politely is when they work well, we never find out. But when they go wrong, we find out. And so keep us in the loop, because we'll be hearing about it one way or the other. Councillor Middleton Hope, you're next.
Question, Mr. Jewell, in regards to the report that you provided to council, would the motion most appropriately align with option one?
Recommendation suggest, but we would have to rescind your previous direction from 2023 to craft a council committee. And then option one is to create an administrative committee. And that's the whole motion here in 1 and 2.
And would you consider reducing your acronym from 5 letters down to 3 or 4?
I wish, I don't know who created that TCCAC, Transit Citizen and Customer Advisory Committee, but it was called the TAC before, the Transit Advisory Committee. I'm happy to change it to back to TAC.
Good. All right. Thank you.
I think call it Committee Acting Transit and then just call it CAT. Sorry. Somehow make it the CAT Committee. All right. All right. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Mr. Jewell, for the information you brought forward. Just to come back to Councillor Carlson's request about even just a copy of the terms of reference, do we have an anticipated time as to when at least a first report would come back to Assets and Infrastructure? Because I think that would be helpful as well.
It would definitely be after the first meeting. So the first question I would ask is, when are we going to do our first meeting? We're waiting for this change of direction. Within 2 or 3 months, we want to have the first meeting. And I would say it would probably be 3 months, because we need to form that committee. It's going to take some time to form that. So I would say a report should come back to Assets and Infrastructure within at least 6 months to say, we've had the first meeting, here's some issues, and then we would likely do it every 6 months or year thereafter.
Okay, and I just think that would bring some comfort to other members of council as well, as if when we sort of bring that point in time terms of reference forward, we could put at least a timeline on when the first report would come back, just so that we know that things are being worked on and moving ahead.
Well, I don't see anyone else in the queue. I've already read the motion. Would you like it reread, or are you good with the first reading of the motion? I'm not seeing anybody jumping up for a rereading. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, it is your motion.
Oh, I think we've had some good discussion around that. We've got direct administration to provide the current terms of reference with that on there. And with those current terms of reference, I would hope that we do see at least a first meeting expectation range brought back forward as well. I think, again, as it points out in the summary documents, this is an administrative task and certainly does allow for some flexibility and for things to be moved forward in a little bit more quicker manner. So with that, if none of my council colleagues or none of my committee colleagues have any further questions, I would call for the vote.
Okay, and I didn't ask members of the public because, again, I don't see any members of the public, so just in case anybody was wondering. All right, question's been called. All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. Moving on now to 6.2. Mr. Robin Harper, General Manager, Recreation and Culture, CC 27 Monuments Policy Update. This is in many ways a housekeeping measure. It's around the definition of disposition in this policy. All the information related to it has been provided in Attachment 1. Do we have any questions from committee on this? Oh, okay. Councillor Middleton Hope. Welcome, Mr. Harper. You thought you were going to get away easily on this one.
It's only 2 letters.
I have about 5 or 6 questions. Yeah, thank you, Jeff.
You get 2. Pick your favorites. No, kidding. Go right ahead with your questions.
So, the removal of current historical monuments causes me concern because we have seen a trend across the country where people, for whatever reason, have made motions at municipal councils to remove historical monuments. Are we experiencing the same type of pressure to either remove or to shroud or replace, that's replace, not replace, historical monuments?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Middleton Hope. We have not received any requests.
Okay. Do we have a strategy in place to deal with the possibility of anyone wanting to move or remove a historical monument?
As part of the policy, obviously there's a definition for disposal in there. That's what we're here for today. But I think as far as a very distinct procedure to undertake that, I don't think we do have one if someone requests for removal of that, other than the fact that it would be
a council decision.
A council decision, absolutely.
Okay, all right. You've indicated in the report an overwhelming public objection, and I don't want to hold you to those specific words, but I'm wondering, what does that mean? When we say overwhelming public objection, I'm always curious as to when we use descriptors like that.
Yeah, I do not believe we have a definitive threshold that we would classify as an overwhelming. That's something we may want to look at, whether it's a number or a percentage, but we do not have anything, from my knowledge, that would classify as something as an overwhelming request.
All right, so we can perhaps pursue that a little bit. When we use language like that in a report, it causes me to cringe a little bit because I'm thinking, my God, the axe picks and the torches are going to be at the front of City Hall. Last is a list of monuments that would fall under this policy, I think would be beneficial. I would certainly like to see what that looks like.
Sure, we can put a list together.
Okay, thank you very much.
That was actually my only question as well, is who's responsible for keeping a list? Does a list already exist and not attached, or is there no such list?
We do have a list of most of the monuments. We would have to probably look at that again and update it and make sure it's accurate and current, but we do keep a list. But like I said, it may not be all-encompassing right now.
Right. Yeah, and that would include all the parks ones and everything else. Okay, perfect. That was the only question I had. I don't see anyone else. Oh, sorry. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. In the document that was submitted to council, it does say that that the definition for disposing was changed, and in the document we have, it only outlines 2 letters that are changed. When I go back to the original policy, there's actually quite a significant change to that definition of disposing. So I'm wondering if, Mr. Harper, maybe you can outline that for us, because I don't feel like we're being, and I think it's just for ease of getting information through and clarity, but I do think it's important for the public as well as the rest of council to understand exactly what was changed, and a full red line document to be presented to us. So I'm wondering if maybe you can tell us what that original disposing was and what it's now being changed to.
Sure. This policy, when it was brought forward for approval by council, had an incorrect definition of disposal. The policy analyst that was in place at the time changed the definition without consulting Recreation and Culture. Included a lot of language around indoor and outdoor facilities, which is really not relevant at all to monuments. So when we found out that that was changed without our knowledge, we wanted to make sure that it was corrected. And it really is as simple as removing that incorrect definition of disposing to the very simple one that talks about the process of deciding on what, how, and when something is to be disposed of.
So what have we eliminated from the definition then?
I can read it for you, what the old one says, right? What the incorrect one said.
Yeah, just so that we
Sure.
have that on record. I think
the
we need to
incorrect
have that.
version of the disposing description said indoor and outdoor facilities and major equipment used for sports and recreation, arts and culture, family and community services, and located within Lethbridge city limits. The facility and or area must be under the organization's jurisdiction and be accessible to the general public through land ownership, long-term lease, and another instrument of occupation.
Okay, and we are changing it to what we've got in front of us today. Or we are correcting it to what we have in front of us today,
Correct.
the process of relocating, storing, or permanently removing a monument.
That's
Okay.
correct, yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And I've just been notified by the City Clerk's Department that a red line version will be attached when it goes forward to council, so that not everybody will think it's just 2 letters. No wonder you were willing to vote on it right away.
Yeah.
All right. I don't believe there's anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on this? No. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Harper. We will move forward to the motion. I have a motion from Councillor Middleton Hope. Be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommend that Council approve the amended policy CC 27 monuments as provided in attachment 1 and with the new red line version that will be going forward as well. Councillor Middleton Hope.
Hey, is that council or councils, Mr. Deputy Clerk? Just asking because it's underlined. I'm
Director
assuming.
directs.
Yep.
It's
That was an
appro-
inside joke, Mr. Deputy Clerk.
Yeah, it's fine, Mr. Sarsfield, don't
He
worry.
knows. I'll call the question. Thank you.
Question's been called, all in favor? And that passes unanimously. Well, you will not live that down, Mr. Sarsfield. Sorry, that's going to be on your record for a long time. Moving now to item 6.3, Mr. Matthews, Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer, CC 11, Technology for Council Members Policy Amendment. And so the thing here is there is a new the policy has been rewritten, looking at the technology for council members. There is a red line version attached, and I have a feeling that there are people who have concerns about this one. So I will start with Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thanks for bringing this forward. I'm just curious about a couple things. In past, council members have been allowed, and I thought it was in policy, to actually purchase or buy out their technology at the end of their term. And I know for some members of council, it's been very helpful. You've had the same cell phone, same cell number for 10 years, and you want to carry on with that so that at my advanced age, I don't have to memorize a new number. And so I'm wondering, if is that a change that has been made, or was it never enshrined in policy? It was just something that was allowed?
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. So actually, in the current policy, it does have inside of there, to your recollection is right, it had in there, upon the completion of a term of office of corporate information technology business unit, oh, sorry, wrong line. The mayor and city council members have the option to purchase their mobile device and or cellular device at the end of their term at the depreciated value as determined by corporate information technology business units at that time. So in the past, that, or even in the current policy, that's not in the new policy inside of that coming up as well. But it also didn't talk about technology as well for like laptops and so forth and other technology as well. So I'm not sure if, with us here today, we have the general manager of IT and also our cybersecurity manager in here to answer some questions in those regards. If
And my question would be, why
do we decide not to do that now?
Yes,
Yes.
as I will get sadder
I'm not sure
and
if
sadder.
Natalia, or if you want to come up and.
Yeah, or decide to pick up my nomination package or not.
Yes, of course. Natalia Madden, GM of IT, and thank you, Mayor, Councilors. To answer the question, why we decide to do that is, yes, in the previous and current policy, you were allowed to purchase, especially your mobile, right, your number. On the new proposed policy, is the city will provide you with a cell phone, right? It's a city-owned cell phone. So then for your term, it's 4 years, and at the end of the term, it will be returned, right? We're not taking anything from you. We're giving you, per se, a new number. So then you can separate your life, your work as a counselor. And it's always a transfer of numbers, right? You can still keep your number, right? Those will be, the past is the past, but it will stay the same. And then on the new term, you will be given a new city-owned cell phone. And yeah, you can transfer your existing number to there and go from there.
I'm curious why it was changed. Is there a security reason, or was it costing the city a 4-year-old iPhone or an 8-year-old iPhone? Didn't seem like a major investment. So I'm just wondering why the change was made, not how it could work, but why.
For sure, it's an administrative task where we have to involve our finance department on the depreciation of the unit. And just so you know, it is also in the process of, for staff, it will be the same. Just to skip improved processes, and it's the administrative task of the depreciation, the charging, all that processes improvement.
Make processes easier.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. I'll jump out, Madam Chair.
Okay. Councillor Middleton Hope?
I'm not going to let you easily. Makes absolutely no sense why we would retain an antiquated asset when we have someone that is prepared to purchase that asset and remove it from our inventory. So I still have not heard why we are doing this, why we made the change. I can tell you that there are other organizations, government organizations, that have a process where they dispense with these assets at the end of the term. If Jeff wants to buy out the phone, you can take your phone number, by the way, but if Jeff wants to buy out a 4-year-old phone, why wouldn't we sell it to him? I don't understand why we wouldn't do that.
So thank you, Councillor Milton Hope. And I'll let Ms. Madden speak into anything else in here as well. But a couple things on it. We did do some research in regards to a number of municipalities, including Calgary, Cochrane, Leduc, Grand Prairie, Red Deer, Medicine Hat. Most and every one of those municipalities require the technology be returned after their term on it. And the reason why they asked for that back, There would be security pieces inside of it as well. It has to be wiped, that device, to make sure there isn't components on there or messages or things that were saved on those devices potentially as well. That is actually the property of the city of Lethbridge, not the individual on it. That'd be one of the aspects. But there is also just getting it back. Now, I understand what you're saying in regards to the, we could get some money out of it and so forth. But here again, the small amount of dollars we're talking about, and after 4 to 8 years that would come back on worth the worth of the asset, it's actually more beneficial to make sure that that asset is clean and can be effectively destroyed.
Good.
In the end.
That's a succinct answer. Thank you. I have one other comment with it in regards to, and I'm sorry I don't have the report in front of me, but it indicates that each city council member shall receive the following standard technology equipment. Could we make that a may? Because I don't want all the equipment. I don't have multiple screens in my office. I have a laptop. I have a phone. That's all I need. So could we change that from a shall to a may, so that I am not encumbered by having television screens or monitors in my office?
That definitely can be achieved on it there too. And I think the intent on the policy would be that if that's kind of, the wording probably does need to be tweaked there in that way, because the intent would be that would be the maximum amount, not that somebody couldn't do less than that amount.
Right. And last question, Mr. Matthews, would also be the voice and data plan. Does that include international? Because we do travel internationally on occasion.
I believe it does, actually, if I remember right. That would be included within the data plans already, and I see Ms. Madden is nodding her head on that. No, we could actually put that inside the policy as well. If that's something that would make it clearer for the reader.
Yeah, it would allow Councillor Dodic to remain connected to City Council when he's in Slovenia. Thank you.
Yeah, that's his biggest intention. Yeah. All right. Councillor Schmidt-Rampel.
Thank you very much. And through you, Chair, to our administrative team. The document that we have in our package, again, is not a full red line document of all the changes. So I don't feel like I've got a good handle on what all the changes are, and am really not comfortable voting on this because I don't see the full red line document there. So that's kind of my first point on this. I don't see that there. The question I have is, council was never brought in on a discussion about this because the purpose of the policy, and it's a council policy, is to empower our council members with the necessary technology to fulfill their duties effectively, ensuring good governance, the safety and viability of the community, and the delivery of desirable and necessary services. So if my technological needs are different than, say, Councillor Middleton Hope's, would you not want to equip both of us with what our needs are, so that we can be doing the best job that we can be doing? Because while he doesn't require the monitors, and quite frankly, I would be okay with that as well, the tablet, the iPad that I have, as well as the laptop, are those two pieces of equipment that I need to do the best job that I can. So I guess we should be, and I would be asking that members of council are spoken to see what is it that they need to best do their jobs.
Thank you, Councillor Schmidt-Rampel. So, and here again, this will probably pass a little bit of this over to Ms. Madden along the way here, but one of the things, the reason why it's at this committee today is to get the feedback from council members, and there's multiple options inside the report, and one of them is actually to actually make any changes that you so wish. So I would envision to say this is the engagement piece prior to going to council for approval. The second point in regards to why would we not have a standard package versus on it, this is relevant, Ms. Madden, but one of the biggest things inside of, I can tell you as a non-technical person behind it all, is for standardization and making sure that we can manage this and not have to have multiple different platforms and multiple different devices that we're looking at. Yeah. So, but Ms. Madden, I don't know if there's something you want to add to that.
Yes, and the purpose is to standardize. The policies are made for that, to give you a package. It may include all the following. And then from there, you're right, we're here to ask for your feedback. But the standardization of equipment is to make your jobs easier, and then you know what you're getting from the beginning. This is the equipment that you may obtain from the city. And yes, of course, it's a really good feedback to see other needs, and it will be up to our CFO and, of course, the city clerk to pass that into the policy.
Thank you very much. I think one of the reasons you're seeing a pushback from members of the committee is this is a philosophical change to how we were approached originally. So when I think back to 8 years ago when I first came on council, the first thing the city clerk said to us about technology is, tell us what technology you need to do your job, right? And so we thought about, okay, how do I interact with the public? How do I do my work? How do I get, do different things? Some of us find that iPad that we have to be incredibly useful. I don't see iPad on the list anymore. I chose to never go with a city phone. I kept my own, and I have a landline. If people really need to track me down, don't laugh. Right, because I do things differently, and we're governance, and there's a different, I see it in a different way. People can get me through email and socials and everywhere else. And now it is about standardization. And I think the pushback you're getting from council, or at least from a few of us, is we don't do our work in a standard way. Every one of us does it in a different way and uses technology differently, right from how we work with the agenda to how we work with the public through technology to all of that. And so, narrowing it down specifically, why is iPad off the list?
I'm on? Yes. Thank you, Councilor Carlson. It's not in the list because, as I say, we're looking just to provide the base. The basic equipment at the beginning, right? Those were the proposed items. Everybody's different, as you say. So then to include a number of pieces of equipment depending on our likes, right? iPads, iPhone. Maybe you're an Android tablet user versus, right? So it will be a lot of inclusions in a policy to A, B, C, D, depending on which one you want, right? And yet again, that's what we're talking about, the standard package, right? Is when you sign up for your internet plan. These are the packages that we offer, right? 1, 2, 3. And then we are taking it from there. Of course, we're open. This is only the first draft for you, and we open to hear your feedback. If you prefer to have iPads, which other municipalities, that's what they're providing versus a laptop, yeah, that's what we're here for, to hear your concerns and your feedback on this policy.
Okay, because one of the things I needed to understand was the why behind. And looking at why larger, have there been any security issues with council over the last number of years? Because we do all use different technology. Has that been an issue? Have there been any unreasonable requests from council over the last number of years? Have any of us been asking for technology, and I don't name names, but just in general, that has like a huge budget attached to it? Or are we getting different stuff, but reasonable stuff? Those are some of the things that I think I'd understand, because if we are all using different stuff and it is causing security issues, then let's standardize. But if we're all using different stuff and it's still manageable, that's where I'm looking to see, is how is it working from IT's perspective? Are we the ones causing all the security issues in the city? I hope not.
No security issues in the city. But so to answer your question, we haven't had any major incidents that have been reported with council members there. I would say probably one of the biggest concerns when you talk about a number of different platforms and devices is our ability to do things like push out emergency patches and those type of things, so that central manageability of it, rather than having to try and track you down when you may or may not be in the office there. We can just take care of those things as we go through.
So maybe I'll just add in there too, because I see some confusion around the word emergency patches. So packages. So what Mr. Schultz is referring to is that when we get notified from different vendors, whether it's Microsoft or other systems that we have at the city, they'll say that you have to put out this patch to this this piece of software or to this piece of hardware's operating system. And of course, that's what Mr. Schultz is referring to. So because all of a sudden we've had, it's been known that bad actors are attacking in a certain way, and they have to update that. And that's what when you have multiple different devices and types, it makes it very difficult. And if they're not standard, that makes it harder. We can't roll that out on that. I think, unless I got that wrong, Mr. Schultz, I think that's what it was referring to.
Councillor Carlson, you're next in the queue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to sort of follow up on Councillor Schmidt-Rempel's thoughts about maybe this isn't the appropriate time to approve. I noticed we do have, the mayor did join us. We had Councillor Campbell. I know they both have different technological needs as well. I'm wondering if we take a moment or a pause, or are we going to?
We have a new motion that Mr. Sarsfield just offered, that we ask administration to return at the May 22nd meeting of governance with a full red line version and suggested amendments to the amended policy, amendments to the amendments based on what they've heard from us today.
And I think in the interim, we should perhaps forward this to all of our colleagues who may also want to weigh in on this as well.
You don't think they read this agenda even though they didn't show up?
I think Mark and Blaine did because they showed up.
Yeah, but you're right. It's going to affect a larger group than just the committee.
Agreed. And I think Mr. Matthews is trying to get in, but I just have one more question. Under this policy, I do things a bit different. I know many of my colleagues have 2 or 3 cell phones, depending on I just have the one, and I just pay half of it and use it as a personal plus work device. Is that still allowed under this policy? It's worked for me. I hated carrying around 2 phones.
You know, I totally understand that. I would hate to carry 2 phones as well. The proposal for this new policy is to provide you with a city phone right now. And yes, as I mentioned before, the solution will be to transfer your number, right? To one or the other one. If you want to just forward your number to the city mobile device, or as Councilor Middleton Hope mentioned, right? The city, it will initiate or I guess open another door, which will be now you need to be paid for, which is not included in the policy, right? So it's a whole process change if we wanted to include that.
So, and forgive me for not understanding properly, but so next term, I would get a city phone. Would it still be allowable for me to pay half of that and use it as my personal and city phone, or no? Is that a huge risk? Am I the risk?
No, you're not the risk in that there. So that's very similar to the individuals currently that on our city plan. Even myself, I have 1 cell phone. I pay my portion personal for that personal portion, similar to yourself on that, every pay that comes off on that. So that still will be the case for these phones. If the personal portion that members are, it doesn't mean also you can't carry 2 phones. And some people like that. When it comes to cell phones, what I've learned over the years, it's very personal when it comes to that. And I think what Ms. Madden also is referring to as well is that you also have your option of an Apple or an Android in that regard. That doesn't matter. So here again, phones are very personal when it comes to that, but it would be a city phone. On it from that point of view. One thing I would, and I'm just going to chime in here, and the other piece that was raised behind on the resolution, it might be good also to add in there to provide the research that we have for other municipalities and so forth, so we can provide what others are doing so council members can understand what their peers are doing. And of course, we, as I said, we have a number of areas on research as well, as well too. So.
Thank you, Mr. Rankin, because that was going to be another question I had is I, in discussions with other councillors around the province, they all do it different. Some municipalities just say you've got a technology budget of $2,500, spend it as you see fit, or don't spend it as you see fit, I guess. And so, yeah, I'd love to see the research just to see what others are doing. But thank you very much.
Mr. Lowen, I hear you have a legal matter for us.
I just thought it would be useful to maybe make an additional comment or for a consideration that employees have or you might have when you're choosing to use your personal phone for work and vice versa. And that is whether it be a FOIP request or whether there's litigation and document discovery, the phone that you're using, whether it's your phone or the city phone that you've conducted city business on may be subject to be searched. So that, you know, as the Chief Financial Officer stated, it can be very personal. What you choose to take pictures of on your phone, your pictures of your family, your children, dogs, cats, whatever it is, that you may not want to give over to city administration to search through to look for relevant things. And it's an important privacy consideration just for anyone in making that decision. Wanted to make sure that was in front of the committee's thoughts as well.
I was just thinking it might be fun for administration to go through the 300 pictures of historic buildings that I have on my phone. You guys might find that amusing. I don't know. Maybe add the cat pictures too. All right, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. One of the questions I have is we haven't heard the reverse of this yet. So when we bring in our own personal devices to be used for our council business, do we or would we see payment for that from the city? So if we bring our own personal devices, because some of us have, will the city be paying for that use?
So currently, in the way the policy is written, the answer is no, it would not. So, and that's also similar to what we've seen across the province, and at least the ones we've sampled so far, is that if you can use other technology, and I think most of us have other technology that you know you may or may not use at your own in other settings, but the city will pay for the core standard, and that's so far fairly consistent across the municipalities we've looked at as well.
Okay, so if I think that's something that, like you said, there's so many personal preferences. I do think that that is something that needs to be considered, that if we come in with our own technology, we be permitted to use that, but that we somehow be reimbursed for that. I also think that going forward, we need to look at what a technology budget might look like. And I know that there are some communities, I believe the mayor is working on getting some information on this for us as well. There are some communities that allow for a technology budget. What does that look like and how can that be considered within this policy? And perhaps that's a way to go. And then just tying into what our city solicitor said with regards to the policy at this point hasn't taken into any considerations around FOIP, nor has it taken into any considerations around the expectation of use under a code of conduct. And as we know, our code of conduct is going to be superseded by what the province does. And we seem to be in the new policy implying a code of technology conduct for council, which we actually can't do when the province makes their decision on what that is. So I think that we need to be taking that into consideration too, is what the provincial code of conduct will be stating around technology before we imply code of conduct in this particular policy.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the things that we definitely can do that. Just in general on policies, we don't usually cross policies in from, so if there's a code of conduct policy, that's where the code of conduct information will be. If there's, you know, a policy on, I'm sorry, in the first part of it there, in regards to, say, other policy that are entrapped in other policy, we will refer to those policies. What we can do is link in there, but we don't try to redo it because otherwise we're going to have, it gets very complicated, obviously, in managing which policy and if they're misaligned between the two. But we can take a look at those components on it. We also do have some information in regards to some budget pieces like you were referring to, so we can bring that back as well. I think the other thing that, you know, we'll have to bring back as well here, the reason why standardization on it here is also the risk mitigations and efficiency components for the city. So it really comes down now to a balance of it. And I think that's what we're hearing today, is that what members of Governance SBC would like was a balance piece of it and make some decisions around where that goes to. And of course, there's operational components that we have to think of as well too, that if we start managing other devices, and so forth outside of our norm, then there's other training and so forth that we will need to be able to support those as well.
And just with regards to that crossover of sort of managing conduct, the acceptable use seems to cross over a little bit into our code of conduct policy. So again, in a review of this and a full red line document, I think that should be considered in there, just to make sure. It does seem to gray over a little bit there.
Yeah, we don't want to end up with a policy where 9 people are costing you more time than 1,800 people. We appreciate that the reason for standardization has a purpose there as well. But I also know all 9 of us do our job very differently when it comes to technology. I don't think if you actually looked at the technology we have, that any one of us has the same technology with us today. Yeah, everyone, so we're, yeah. Different technologies back here. And so that is, and it might just be, we're so used to the way we do our different areas. So what I'm hearing just through the conversation is you do like the, not sending it to our council colleagues today, but to ask for it to come back on May 22nd, full red line version, suggested amendments based on our conversation, and with research from other municipalities.
I would like to see input from all of our council colleagues on this.
That's a separate thing. I've made a note for myself that we'll share this discussion with the rest of our council colleagues. Make sure they know they're welcome to May 22nd, as they always are, but also be willing to bring back their concerns as well. But that's not direction for administration. That is direction for you guys to give me to make sure we have that conversation, whether it's at a lunch or however we have that conversation with our colleagues. Okay. But yeah, I've written that down as something I need to make sure I do. All right, so I have a motion from council.
Just one last question, and maybe it'll be answered, as Mr. Matthews said, when we see the research. And just for interest's sake, did any of this contemplate internet provision? Back in the day, council used to have their internet provided for them because it's a big part of the world now. But we changed that some time ago. Is that information, do other communities do that? Do they not? Because I know we changed the whole way we get remunerated 8 years ago or so. So I'm just wondering, how is that information in there?
Inside what I can see in some of the policies and some of our bylaws, actually Calgary is a bylaw, they actually do have provisions, some of them where internet is included in. So once again, each municipality has taken this differently, and I would presume it's from the unique nature of how councils want to work. And of course, then budgetary or whatever considerations. But the reality is that, yeah, they're all over the map on that one.
Thank you.
I know when I had to be at home for meetings, my internet was terrible, and staff basically begged me to improve my technology, because it's really hard to be part of meetings. So, yeah. Yeah, because it does make it very hard, because we now by policy can do meetings externally, but it doesn't always work if the internet's not there. So this is what we have right now. Return May 22nd. We'll just double check if that time works here in a second. Full red line version, suggested amendments to the amended policy, and providing the research. Does a month time to look at what we suggested? Okay, I got a nod from Mr. Matthews. So Councillor Middleton Hope, this is your motion.
Good. Well, I think we've had a fulsome discussion on this, haven't we? All right, so I'll call the question.
Question's been called. All in favor? And opposed? All right. Please don't give her any information on May 22nd. All right, thank you. I'm not sure. The fun thing is, this is the CRAB committee.
Nice, we have one.
Yeah, right? Community Requirements Appeal Board. It's the CRAB committee. Sorry. So if somebody wants to recommend a change to the, yeah. All right. So we do have David Sarsfield, Deputy City Clerk, Bylaw 6488, Community Requirement Appeal Board. So the suggestion here is to create the board, use the staff from SDAB, or the volunteers on SDAB. It would be delegating authority from council to the new board. though from my understanding is these issues rarely have come forward to council, so it's not something that we're routinely doing, but it would be delegated authority to this council, or to this committee from council, and using the same group of volunteers, but expanding the group of volunteers. So there is sort of in a nutshell what we have, and I do see we have a question from Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the work. I think it was council that directed this work to be done, if I recall. Ish. And I'm just, there are two possibilities. One is to go with 3 readings at one meeting. One is to follow the regular process of introduce. There's no, that was my question. Is there any rush?
There is no rush.
Okay.
Like, this came out of the review of the BCCs, and it came out as something that was missing, a gap, and so we said we needed to to establish an appeal process for innumerable processes which may or may not come to council. Fortunately have not, but could.
So there is no rush.
No rush.
And I think it says 3 readings. It doesn't say 3 readings in one meeting. It just says it has to have 3 readings because it's a bylaw.
Oh, I thought it was 2 different versions.
Oh, okay. My version doesn't have 1 meeting. Okay. If it was needed. How crabby are we? And, okay. That was the only question on this one? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much, Chair Croson. So then for clarification on this, we've got the members of SDAB. They will be making up this board as well. So how will they be paid? So are they going to be paid for each meeting because they're now sitting on 2 boards? Will they be paid just for sitting on SDAB? What is the honorarium structure going to look like for that?
So thanks for the question. Council passed an honorarium policy 2 years ago, June 2023, and that policy bases payment on the number of meetings.
Okay.
So if there is no meetings, you don't get paid. If there is 5 meetings, they get paid for 5 meetings.
Okay.
So it's just dependent on the number of meetings they are.
Okay, but they will be paid separate for SDAB meetings and then these meetings?
We pay them once a year.
Okay.
And so at the end of the year, we look to see how many meetings they attended and what they accomplished. And, well, yeah, we do that too. So I shouldn't have said that.
How we get paid too?
And so there's just based on what work they've done on those 2 committees.
Work on the 2 committees, okay. There's a comment in the package that the SDAB training is similar. How is the SDAB training similar to what we're proposing with this committee?
So it's based on principles of natural justice, and so and it's quasi-judicial in nature, so it's just about conducting a fair hearing, make sure everyone has a chance to be heard, and following the processes. So that's what it's about for both boards.
Okay. And then we know right now that SDAB is undersubscribed. Are we going to have enough members to fulfill this committee as well? Do we have enough members for SDAB? Do we have any concerns about people being able to fill the roles?
We do not have that concern.
Okay.
Previously, the bylaw had read that we have a maximum of 5 members on the SDAB, and unfortunately, as of December 31st, we only had 4. We re-advertised and got an abundance of applications for SDAB, and I believe they're coming to the next meeting, and so there's more people that are being appointed. And for the SDAB, you've changed the bylaw to allow additional members to be, so those additional members will be appointed to the SDAB, and potentially this board as well once it's passed, and be fully trained.
Okay. I have a few other questions, but I'll step out if, no, okay. And so we've got, when I was reading through it, there seems to be some different timelines for reporting back. The agricultural pest notice appeals must be heard within 5 days. Weeds must be heard and determined within 5 days. The board shall give its decision upon appeal in writing with reasons for the decision within 30 days. And then even further down, there was review the order by written notice filed within 7 days. So we've got a lot of different timelines with when things can be heard, when decisions can be put out. How are we going to complain, or how are we going to, complain? How are we going to communicate that to the public? Because there are so many different timelines. The process is complicated depending on who's appealing what, when, and how. And then we've also got the MGA saying there's 7 to 14 days, where 5 days seems short. How are we going to make sure that we are communicating that out to the public, but also fulfilling and meeting those timelines and dates as per what we've outlined, as well as the MGA?
So most of those exceptions that you've outlined are in the respective provincial acts, and they stipulate that this is when the hearing shall be conducted and when decisions have to be rendered. Typically, what people would be doing is they would receive a notice of some kind, and in that notice it would say, these, if you wish to appeal, this is when you have to appeal by and what the conditions are attached. So when the person is issued some sort of notice, it is included in that notice itself.
Okay, so that's how they would understand what their timelines are, not going back to what we've got here. Okay. And then one final question is, there are fees for appealing. We've got 100 for the Agricultural Pests Act, and we've got 500 for the Weed Control Act. What if the applicant can't afford that appeal fee? Will we be working with them on that? How will that work if people can't afford the fee?
So traditionally, we do not charge. Like if we're one of the few municipalities that don't charge for SDAB fees. You check other municipalities, we don't. However, again, the act has stipulated that that charge shall be paid, and so that's why we have it in our bylaw. If we have that issue where someone is unable to pay, I guess we will deal with it when it comes up.
Okay. Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Okay, so to clarify, we are recommending this move forward, but even if we recommend it forward, it still goes forward as a bylaw, which would have to be approved by all of council. Conversation was we don't think it's in a hurry, so we do have two possible motions. We can recommend all 3 readings on May 13th, or we can recommend first reading May 13th and second and third May 27th. And then there's the separate thing about recommending that the current members of the SDAB also be put onto this board for the remainder of the respective terms. So just before I read one or the other, are we looking for the hurry one or the not hurry one? The not hurry? Okay. All right, so be it resolved that the Governance Standing Policy Committee recommend that Council 1 provide first reading of Bylaw 6488, Community Requirements Appeal Board Bylaw at the May 13, 2025 Council meeting, and 2, consider second and third reading of Bylaw 6488, Community Requirements Appeal Board Bylaw at the May 27, 2025 Council meeting, and 3, appoint all current members of the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board to the Community Requirements Appeal Board for the remainder of their respective terms. Sorry, the reason I was laughing is it actually Crab with 2 Bs, which is the old name of 6th Street. So I'm just going to call this the 6th Street bylaw. All right. Councillor Carlson, that is your motion.
We'll see if there's any comments from my colleagues, or I will call the vote.
Question? Oh, we have a question.
If I may, do the members, current members of the SDAB know that they will be appointed to this?
They do, and we've said we'll be offering them training once this is passed, so to give them some idea of what kinds of things they've committed to.
Perfect, thank you.
Great, question's been called. All in favor? No one's opposed. That is done, and we are adjourned.
Bang the gavel. I'm very Pavlovian. I think I broke the gavel.